Hello?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to start briefly with the background to the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act, which is the one, because my presentation is going to focus on the public entities. I think it has already been alluded to by previous speakers that integrated sustainability reporting is fairly new in the country. So this is something that our public entities are currently grappling with, as well as other countries as well, not just Zimbabwe. The background to this, we've got the Public Finance Management Act, which came into being in 2010. This one gave very little guidance to accounting frameworks. There's only one section which talks of public entities being required to prepare their financial statements according to general accepted accounting practice. And as far as corporate governance is concerned, it's all encompassed in one section, which just talks about public entities following sound corporate governance policies and practices. That was all that was said by the Public Finance Management Act. Then at the same time, we've got the corporate governance framework for state enterprises. It was also promulgated in 2010, and it gave guidance regarding corporate governance, but still it was also on the surface, it wasn't very detailed. It was just a framework. It was not something which was binding into law. So against the backdrop of these two pieces of legislation and guideline, this is where we found a lot of public entities attracting bad publicity by way of poor corporate governance, which came through in the form of excesses in executive remuneration, area financial statements, poor financial performance, and there were indefinite tenures of office for boards and executives. So government felt that these two legislations or two pieces of guidance were not good enough, and they did not stop or give help in ensuring better performance in public entities. Then government came up with the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act, which some people call PECOGO Act, which came into being in 2018. And this one came into being after it had been muted in the Constitution 2013, where Parliament said that there must be an act which will guide in terms of tenures of CEOs and boards. So when this corporate governance came into operation by way of Section 198 of the Constitution, it gave and still gives detailed guidance on corporate governance to public entities. There are now limited tenure of terms for board of directors as well as CEOs. Board of directors now is just 4 years, and the maximum term of office of 8 years. CEOs it's 5 years, and the maximum of 2 renewals, that making it 10 years. Then in addition, the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act incorporated the National Code on Corporate Governance, the ZIM Code. It is actually the first schedule to this act. And within that schedule, that's where we find integrated sustainability reporting. In section 315 of this schedule, we find that integrated sustainability reporting is introduced. And this section says that the report should incorporate a company strategy. It should talk about governance, financial performance, future outlook, environmental, social, and governance issues which impact on the company's operations. It should also talk about global reporting initiatives guidelines. Then we have section 316 of that act, which is basically the National Code on Corporate Governance. It says that the board also has responsibilities regarding sustainability, integrated sustainability reporting. The board should ensure that there is disclosure of information according to the law and according to the schedule, which is the code, and which gives it a holistic and integrated representation of the company's performance in terms of its finances and its sustainability. The board should formally adopt a suitable reporting framework for use by management in integrated and sustainability reporting. And the board should be responsible for ensuring that a company has a formal process in place for publishing and for publishing the integrated and sustainability report. And the board should be responsible through an audit committee for reviewing the information to be published in the integrated report. Then we have section 317. This one talks about now the contents of the integrated report. The report should contain strategic information about the company. It should comment on financial and non-financial information. It should adopt a futuristic orientation. It should also address the needs of stakeholders both within and outside the organization. The report should be concise and should contain reliable material corporate information. It should include sustainable development and environmental impact assessments and responses by the reporting entity. Then we have section 318. Section 318 is basically, I think, to do with recommendations, but in addition, it actually delves deep into the requirements that are expected in a sustainability report, integrated sustainability report. It says that the report should be prepared every year, and it should contain adequate information about the company's operations, sustainability issues, its financial results, and results of its operations and cash flow projections. It should be focused on substance rather than form. It should contain forward-looking information. It should describe how the company has made its money by reporting on the positive and negative impact its operations have had on its stakeholders. Here, I guess it is referring to company because, as I said, this schedule was just uplifted as the code, the national code as is, and became part of the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act. So initially the code was meant for the private sector, but now it is also applicable to public entities. So wherever it says public company, in my context, I'm going to say it's referring to public entities. And the public entities, as we know, they are state-owned companies, parastatals, as well as local authorities. They all form part of the public sector under the banner of public entities. Then the report, the other recommendations are that the report should cover all areas of the company's performance, including reporting on economic, social, and environmental issues affecting the company or public entity. It should comply with the third generation global reporting initiative guidelines of 2007 as amended from time to time. It should demonstrate the linkages between the organization strategy, governance, and financial performance, and the social, environmental, and economic context, as well as organization's ability to create and sustain value in the present and in the future. It should give insight into the organization's strategic objectives and how these objectives relate to its ability to create and sustain value over time, and the resources and relationships on which the organization depends. The report should also show the connections between the different components of the organization's business model, external factors that affect the organization, and the various resources and relationships on which the organization and its performance depend. It should provide insight into the organization's relationships with its key stakeholders and how and to what extent the organization understands, takes into account, and responds to their needs. Then we also have section 319. Section 319 talks about the assurer who should validate the integrated report. The name of that assurer should be stated in the integrated report. The period that the assurer examined should be stated, as well as the scope of the assurance exercise and the methodology that has been adopted. Then section 320 requires the audit committee to oversee the function of the integrated disclosure. Section 321 requires organizations to have policies in place to determine the initiatives and strategies to address environmental and social activities. These will in turn provide a basis for information to be included in integrated reporting. It is abundantly clear that the integrated report is holistic, sound, and comprehensive. It gives stakeholders adequate information to make decisions. It engenders trust and confidence in the management of an organization. And implementation of the integrated sustainability reports by public entities locally will boost confidence in public finance management. It will help erase the negative perception that the general public has about the performance of the public sector. Such reports clearly articulate how the organization's capitals, financial, manufactured, natural, intellectual, human, social, and relationship would have been used in creating value or wealth for the organization and government as a whole. Our national vision, as espoused in the National Development Strategy 1, is to be a prosperous and empowered upper middle income society by 2030. Integrated sustainability reports will help relate how this vision is going to be achieved together with the SDGs. As we all know, most public entities are economic enablers. We have got the likes of ZESA, ZINWA, these mining public entities, and so forth. The president is on record for saying that by 2023, the mining sector should produce about 12 billion. So these public entities, they help propel sustainable socio-economic development of the country. They will help restore the economic bliss of yesteryear. So public entities in the past, they used to contribute substantially towards the GDP of the country. I think between about 40 to 60% of the GDP. And the integrated sustainability reports will provide a vehicle of showcasing this information. Unfortunately, here in Zimbabwe, adoption and implementation of integrated sustainability reporting appears to be in its infancy, as already alluded to by Mr. Ndamba. Such reports are still very few and far between. Then regarding the future, integrated sustainability reporting is enshrined in the Public Entities and Corporate Governance Act, and it is therefore law. It is now law. There is no more going back. We cannot turn back the hands of time. By not complying, one is breaching the law. So it is incumbent on all public entities to make the necessary arrangements for the adoption and implementation of integrated sustainability reporting. It's unlike in the private sector. I think they are still following this as a code, and it's still comply or explain. But in the public sector, it's now law. We have no way out but just to make sure that arrangements are made for public entities to comply with the integrated sustainability reporting. I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.